It's a pleasure to be here today, so thank you very much. So I'm going to give you like a really brief background about why the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance took on this project, and then I'm going to share all the examples of how the WPAC community is working together in order to, share these results and make this this information accessible to the public. So the reason why the NSWA wanted to pursue this project, when we first started asking the question about, what state is our watershed in, we had to come up with like a suite of indicators to use as a metric for measuring the health of the watershed. And riparian health was indicated as a really important metric for that. And the reason for that is all the suite of ecosystem services that they provide to support human and wild communities. And Sherry mentioned a lot of these ecosystem services, such as supporting biodiversity and as well as like flood and drought abatement as well. So however, in our watershed, what we understood is that there's over 100,000 kilometers of riparian area in our watershed, but at that time, we didn't really know the condition of much of that area, actually less than 1% of the health of those riparian areas. So the NSWA started working with our stakeholders to determine, what actions we need to start pursuing in order to manage these riparian areas. And the first action is complete an inventory to assess the condition of riparian areas. The second is working with our municipalities to develop policies to protect riparian areas at that local level, some bylaws, setback guidelines that exceed the provincial minimums that Sherry mentioned. And then the third is to develop incentive and support programs to enable and assist landowners to retain naturally occurring riparian areas, to restore damaged areas, and to replant riparian vegetation on their own land. So that's really kind of the driver of this, is that we want to do all of this work in order to lead to action on the ground that improves the watershed. So you heard from Sherry regarding filling in that data gap, which was, the first action. And what I want to talk to you about today is this third action about supporting, developing incentive programs and supporting existing ones. And from what we could see, there were already, in our watershed, there was already a really great suite of incentive programs that existed out there for working on riparian areas. The municipalities themselves often had in-house programs, such as the ALICE program or a land care program. And also, in addition to that, there's a multitude of amazing nonprofit conservation groups out there working on riparian areas as well. And so we started asking the question, well, how can we as a WPAC start supporting those groups and the good work that they're already doing? So one of the first things that we did was develop this riparian web portal. And so I'm just going to jump into that to showcase the Riparian web portal. So the Riparian web portal has three key purposes. The first and foremost was to provide data access to the general public as well as our stakeholders. This is pretty, it's a GIS heavy based data set, and not everybody uses GIS. It's a pretty sophisticated software. And so we wanted to give people the ability to access this data without having to learn that GIS program. And I've got a ×2 here because we have 2 levels of data access. And then the second one, the second purpose of this project is to share examples of restoration or conservation projects that are actually happening on the ground, to share successes, to showcase what can be done when you see a lot of red on the map, and for people to be able to, landowners to be able to celebrate this really great work that they're doing. And the third purpose of this project was to share a suite of resources to share all of those really great incentive programs that do exist, and support landowners in putting those projects on the ground. So what you see here, I'm not going to show you the actual Riparian web portal. I'm just going to show you like a suite of photographs from it. But what you can see here, this is the landing page when you come into the Riparian web portal. Right off the bat, you can see all of the data sets that have been created thus far. This picture is a little bit outdated because we actually have now the data sets from your project for Athabasca, for Pembina. And so those data sets are already uploaded on the page. And so the next thing that I want you to notice are these like stars that you're seeing here. And these are actually all examples of projects that exist on the ground. So this is the public-facing side of the Riparian web portal. You're able to zoom in to a certain extent, I would say what we would call like a neighborhood or water body extent. And this is, you know, to protect the privacy of landowners. And really the goal here is just to showcase to people what state the health of the watershed is in. The Riparian web portal at the public access point also has this really amazing tool, which is a summarization tool. And so you can zoom into that particular water body of interest, whether it be a creek or a lake. And the summarization tool will allow you to like click on that particular lake and get a summary of all of those RMA, riparian management area results that might exist for something like Chip Lake, and get a summary of what that actually looks like. We're also developing a little tool here where you see the 3 lines there, where you can export this particular graph if you want to. So that's a pretty powerful tool that is available to the public. And then the third aspect of this is that I pointed out those stars that you saw on the map, and what those are clickable clickable reference points. So when you click on them, you get information about these really wonderful projects on the ground. What they do is they showcase to you, before and after photos that might exist. They give you a lot of information about who was involved with that project, what the purpose of that project was, and even a timeline as to when that project started, and maybe some progress along the lines and what activities occurred, and then the partners that were involved with putting that project in the ground. And this part is really important because, if a neighbor in that area was wanting to know who to reach out to, it's likely that the same partners would probably be willing to work with them in order to put those projects on the ground. So, a landowner can go to this site and see these examples of projects on the ground and say, hey, that looks like what my property looks like, and maybe I can do a restoration project too. Maybe I can get my property to enhanced in order to improve aquatic ecosystem health, or whatever my goal is.